Hey everybody! In this month's Hero Arts video, I am going to show you a fun way to do shadows with a very quick trick. This is the newest Hero Arts My Monthly Hero Kit, and it is book themed, which is my jam. I did not have a TV growing up, and all I did was read books and have books read to me, so I'm super excited. This is one of the add-ons. This is a text background stamp that I'll also be using with the kit. Now I'm using this image and the matching die, and I want you to know you need to cut the die into the back of your masking paper to make this shadow technique work. That way it's flipped on the correct side of the masking paper, which has the sticky on the back. So it'll make more sense when you see it, but just trust me. So I have a piece of white cardstock and I'm about to do one of my go-to techniques, and that is to create a corner for an image, just two walls and a floor. And I do this with Post-it tape. You could use masking paper, you can use a Post-it note, whatever you have. The medium is not super important here. So I have basically one of the walls masked off, and I'm going to use some soft granite ink to ink blend just a little bit of gray along the lines of the wall, and then where the wall meets the floor, just to define those two angles. This is such an easy trick. And it's so great for creating atmosphere and mood and whatever you want to do on your cards. On my blog, there are several cards featuring this corner technique over the years. And it's just something that I go back to time after time for literally the quickest scene building that you can possibly do on a card. Now, once you have the first angle finished, you'll want to create your second angle for the floor. And you can pick the way you want this to look. I just went from corner to corner on my card. So I'll go back and mask off what I've already done to create the shadows on the new part. But for me, it was symmetrical to go create my corner on the floor that went to exactly the point of the lower parts of both sides of this cardstock. So again, I'll just brush some gray ink on here. This is just going to define where these two lines meet. It doesn't have to go all the way across the wall. I just want the floor to be white, and I want there to be a little bit of a neutral shadow creating the corner and the walls. This is so simple, and I really encourage you to try this because it does add sort of a moodiness to it. And of course, I've done funny cards where I put some stamped characters in the corner like they had been bad. But that's not what I'm doing today. It's just a great way to give the feel of a room, the inside of a room on your card. So you can see there's my little corner and the floor is white. And now we will work on her shadow. So I'm going to have her standing sort of in the corner, and she's reading a book. And really, this card is like me when I used to read. God, I loved reading. And I also spent most of my childhood barefoot. So this is such a sweet image for me. So I just want to figure out where this shadow needs to go. So I'll hold this still for just a minute while I figure this out. It's really important to sort of line up her feet with where the shadow is going to be so that it doesn't look sort of strange. So, and you'll want to make sure that the die cut image overlaps that wherever you put the shadow in a way that makes sense and there isn't some weird part of her foot sticking out. So trust me, I've done it the wrong way a million times. So I know all the ways that this can go wrong. So I'm just trying to save you from that. So again, I'll sort of line it up, and actually I realized I should have put this at the top of my Misty, not the bottom, because I need room for that shadow mask. And you can use this mask over and over and over again. So once you've created the shadow mask, you will be able to just stick it in the pocket with your stamp set and you'll be able to use it again. Now I am using a cling background stamp, so I did need to remove the foam pad from my Misty and then position her again so I can sort of figure this out. So I'll remove the backing from the masking paper, and I'll have the masking paper in the list. This is the most inexpensive way to mask for me, and it really has a good grip without damaging the cardstock surface. So here I'll figure out where I want this to be. I want a good portion of the shadow to show, and you're going to see why. So I'm trying to get as much of the shadow on there in a way that makes sense with the die cut image before I do the next step. So I'm just tearing off these extra pieces so that I can stamp cleanly on top of this image. So now I will grab this beautiful text background stamp. It has such tiny detail. I love it so much. And it also has a division in the text so that it looks like a book page. It's so awesome. Now it is really important for you to mask off the rest of your card. So I just have some scraps of masking paper here that I'll cover this up with. It doesn't have to be masking paper. It can just be copy paper, Post-its, just a piece of whatever you have lying around. But because the background stamp is so large, it's going to cover a lot, if not all, of the card. And so I need that protected because the only place that I want that text is in her shadow. So that will protect the rest of my card. Now I've been trying to figure out what this text is. To me, it looks like Alice in Wonderland, but you can see when you read some of the words. So make sure you have it right side up first so you don't have upside down text. And I'll just stamp this into that opening. I'm also going to be doing some ink blending, and you will see that you need to let this ink dry. This is a brand new ink pad, and so it takes a little bit longer to dry in my climate. But you will want to heat set it or make sure it's completely dry before you do any ink blending. So that looks great. I got all the way to the edges there. Some of it could use another pass just to get the text really perfect and black. This ink is so black and crisp that I want that text to be black and crisp as well. So that's all done. I can remove that background stamp, and I'm using that stamp on several other projects that you'll see at the end of this video. It's so great. It's just a fantastic stamp if you're obsessed with text images like I am. So I'll heat set this a little bit. I'm keeping my heat gun far away. I don't want to damage the base of the Misty. I'm just sort of getting that ink dry so that I can apply the next layer of ink. And I test it on just the masking paper just to make sure the ink is dry and it's not smearing, because I want that crisp detail of the text stamp to show through. So you really do want to make sure it's very dry before you start ink blending. This may be different depending on where you live, but for me, it's definitely an issue with ink not drying just because it's so humid here. So I'm just adding the gray ink back on top of this to enhance the shadow and even it out, because you could see there was already some ink blending as part of that shadow and I needed it to be even. So this is what it does. Now, just the shadow there, it sort of looks like a crime scene, but I'm going to fix that. When I put the little girl down, color the image, put that down, I added the little awesome detail coming out of the book. And here are some of the other cards from today's release. This gorgeous stack of books die, amazing three-dimensional tree die with books that I watercolored. This I masked. I talk about this on my blog. This is a great set. and then this card for a friend of mine who is embarking on a new job. So head over to my blog for the rest of these cards and a giveaway, and thanks so much for watching.